It's just a generic piece that'll allow you to, have sort of a study guide. So starting from a frontal, and this is a very, very generic head, and I'm just going to give it an egg. We were kids, we drew heads that were circular, but our heads are actually a little bit more egg-shaped. Let's see if that doesn't really help me much. Okay. So I'm going to draw a little darker than you guys should since I'm trying to get it to be seen on the video. So start in, give yourself a nice egg head, nice basic egg head. What you're going to do from here is you're going to divide it in half, both horizontally and vertically. So right down the center, you can eyeball it, give yourself a line of symmetry. That central line will help you orient the features. Also, you're going to divide it in half vertically, and you can measure. If you have a measuring stick, or measure with your hands or a pencil or something like that. So what you're aiming for initially is just your sort of egg shape with a crosshair that's about midway. Now the reason you say, what's that midway line here for? That's actually where your eyes are going to fall. Your eyes are halfway down your skull. You can look at yourself in the mirror and actually measure that for yourself. Let's try not to kick the camera, Juarez. Okay, so your eyes will actually fall there. And I'm going to call that the 50% line, or the 50-yard line, however. You're going to do another line about midway between that 50-yard line, if you will, and the chin. So about in there. Another line. Again, these are just guidelines. So about 75%. About in there. Your next one will fall about halfway between the line you just drew and the line of the chin, which I think is about, like, let me see, like 87.5 or something like that. So you have a line that is halfway down for your eyes, 75% down, that'll be where your nose will fall, 87.5% or there, whatever that is, about where your mouth will fall. So kind of basic, straightforward stuff. From here, now if you want to be really technical about it, if you can technically divide at the 50-yard line, the 50% line, if you can divide that area into 5 equal spaces, 1, 2, 3 across the center line, 4, and 5. Okay, so you want to divide that line across in 5 sections. The reason being is that right across there in sections 2 and in sections 4 are where your eyes are going to fall. A generic eye, we're going to just put a football in there. So again, we've divided this line across there at the 50% line into 5 more or less equal sections. That's probably the trickiest part of this assignment. But again, when you look at your face, there's space between the outer edges of your eye and the side contour of your face. There's also a decent amount of space between your eyes, and the width of that space is typically about the width of an eye. Again, fairly generic measurements here. If you really want to get jiggy with it, you can give yourself some eyelids, because we do have eyelids. And again, this is a very straightforward, generic drawing. What you're going to do now is I will drop vertical lines from the inside corners of the eye. Draw, you've got a vertical coming from both sides from the inside. That's going to help determine the width of your nose. Now, in classic European training, that nose typically fits very neatly between those two eyes from, those two lines from the corners of your eyes. Oftentimes, people of color may have broader noses, especially African Americans. So be mindful of that when you're drawing your own form. So for now, we'll just kind of put in kind of a generic nose. He's just kind of, a couple of parentheses and a little divot there. Once you start drawing your own nose, of course, it's going to become a lot more complex. Then from the centers of the eye, we're going to drop 2 more verticals. Bada bing. And that's going to determine approximately where your mouth falls. So again, we're now addressing that 87.5% line, and that'll be more or less where your mouth is going to fall. Your lips are typically about where the center of the eyes are. And again, I'm just giving us a real generic lip here. You sort of have it, what they call that Cupid's bow right there. I call it the bird's eye logo. And then just a little bit of curvature right there to get that bottom lip. Again, very, 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 very generic. One thing that would be missing are ears. Ears will typically fall more or less between the eyes and the nose. So right between the 50 and the 75. Got to give yourself some ears. Of course, you're drawing ears in your sketchbook, so you're going to see how much more complex they are. But again, we're going generic here. We also need a neck. So outer corners of the eye can then extend down, and that's going to let you know where your neck is. And it's not bad to give yourself a little shoulder line somewhere in there as well. Let's see, am I missing anything? And that's like the main parts of it. From there, you can decide, you know, if you want to give yourself a few more features and give yourself some eyebrow space. And then the thing is that this measurement here represents the top of the skull. Even if you had a really short bald fade, your hairline is much lower than the top of your scalp. I'm going to say that one more time. The line of your hairline is lower than the top of your scalp. That's why the eyes go down all the way to 50%. A common mistake people make in drawing faces is we tend to draw the eyes up here. And the problem with that is it comes because we don't address the top of the scalp. So even if you had a bald fade, a really close Caesar type haircut, it's still your hairline will fall below the top of the scalp. Those of you, of course, who have more hair, that hair is really going to flesh itself out and fill in above the top of the scalp. So be mindful where the top of your scalp is, and then you can address, you know, all the hair and stuff like that accordingly. Okay, I'm gonna run through a portrait. Let me stop this one demo and we'll move into a second.